Right. Welcome back to our Gita sessions in English. We called it Spiritual Gita for the Kriya Yogi or Kriya Yogi's Spiritual Gita. We'll continue with that name and we will restart from where we left off. All right. We were in chapter 13 and the shlok that we were supposed to read was 10. Will you confirm that in Runadi?
We had just started 10 and I had to just skip off
Okay, no
at the
problem.
beginning of text.
No problem.
10.
So we'll restart with 10 only.
Okay. Now in the meanwhile, I'll just, I have heard a word about Charbak. So after coming back from that course, and Charbak is a sect of Indian philosophers in ancient days
Okay.
who only believed in worldly pleasures.
Okay.
They did not believe in rebirth. They did not believe in Ishwar. They did not believe in, they were atheist.
Okay. Good. So I'll try to stay away from them.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
That was just the preliminary
Yeah.
of the first class.
Yes.
And that is.
Okay, okay. So we will sing two very small prayers for the continuation of this English Gita. Trying to understand Gita in Hindi is itself such a tough job. Trying to translate that into English is another tougher enterprise. But Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatakrpatamaham bande paramananda madhavam. If he says go ahead and if he helps me, then nothing is impossible. So we will try and seek his help all the time. So we sing in praise of Krishna first and the eternal power of the Nirakar Brahma, Durga Devi. So the first slok is dedicated to Krishna. Shri Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hare Paramatmane Namah Pranata Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namah Durge Smrita Harasi Bhitimashesh Jantu Swastai Smrita Mati Mati Vashubham Dadasi Daridra Dukkha Bhayaharini Tvadanya Sarvopakar Karnaya Sadadruchitam. Jai Bhavaki. We start with chapter 13, shlok number 10. Just let us revise what is chapter 13. Chapter 13 is Prakriti Purush Vivek Yoga. The ability to distinguish between nature and the controller of the nature. Controller of the nature is the formless one, the eternal being, who has always been, ever since time started, he was there. He controls nature. Nature controls the rest of us. Let me rephrase that and tell you how actually as per our belief in the Gita, how the world comes into being. There are periods of existence and there are periods of complete destruction, according to our philosophy. The period of existence is called Shrishti and the destruction is called Pralay. Prakishta Rupe Lay. Lay means everything goes into its original form, which is nothing. So how does it start? The Creator, the Lord Himself, works for 4 yugs: Satyug, Treta, Dwapar and Kali Yuga. We know the duration of each yug. And during this period of about 42 lakh years, Srishti is first created. There are 10 avatars of Bhagwan, and then in the end of Kali Yuga, when the final avatar of Bhagwan Vishnu appears, he is Kalki avatar and is due to appear in 2037. So we don't have too much time. It is said in some of our scriptures that only about 10 crore people will survive in the entire world, who will then reach on to the next creation cycle. Okay, these four yugs are a single day in the life of Brahma the creator. And the night when he goes to sleep is pralay, that is equal period of time of 42 lakh years. Human time. Some problem. Yeah, okay, it has restarted. Yeah. That is one day, or in human calculation, 24-hour scale, that is his 24-hour scale. And like this, if he continues for 100 years, that is his life, then the Brahma himself changes. A new Brahma comes in and the old one is replaced. Okay? Difficult to comprehend. We can't comprehend even 1 year. Where to talk of 42 lakhs of years. But that's what our scriptures say. And we have certain proofs, circumstantial. You can't really prove something that happened 42 lakhs years ago. Nothing will exist, changes. So, okay, let us suffice. Now, once it is created, once the Kesara, what will happen will happen. Okay. So now we were coming to the chapter 13. Just as a reminder, chapter 13 is Prakriti Purush Vivek Yoga, nature and Chaitanya, the enlivened, what in Star Wars movies they call, may the force be with you. That force is this force, this Chaitanya, this Brahma, this formless one, whatever you like to call it, the ultimate being, the supreme being. So many people call it with so many names, and all the names are correct. But they only describe one part of that supreme being because it's too vast to be described in a few words. Forget it for a few words, even a few books will be insufficient to describe. So now this Chaitanya Purush, as we would like to call him in Hindi and Sanskrit, or this force, is the one around which nature works, because nature is his power. Now what happens during creation when he wakes up after his night's sleep, a night extending to 42 lakhs of years, then this, with his awakening, his power comes out of him. It is called the Adya Shakti, that divides into two. One is called Parashakti, the other is called Aparashakti. Parashakti means extraordinary. Aparashakti is ordinary. Parashakti creates all the divine beings, including Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. So they are also creatures, which is, I said, no, 100 years of Brahma and he's changed. So Parashakti changes him. Two Brahma, then Vishnu changes. Most people don't know this. Okay, so now Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh and all the deities, Agni Dev, Varuna Dev, Vayu Dev, blah blah blah, They are all created by Parashakti after the creation restarts, so to say. Okay. The Aparashakti is involved in the creation of the earthly things, which we know, like you, me, all the other different. Okay, so God says, I have created the entire universe with these 8. What is the 8? 5 I have described to you: earth, water, fire, air, and space. What are the other 3? Chit, Buddhi, Ahankar. They are abstract. So with these 8, I have created the entire world. Yesterday I was looking at AI asked a question which I had a problem. I had asked this AI to tell me about permutation and combination. So I will work it out. These 8 elements, in what proportion they will form what kind of a person. Now, another beautiful thing about this creation is that everybody is controlled by 10 planets. We have all heard our solar system has 9, right? There's a 10th. In a horoscope, the calculation of the earth is missing. They calculate all of the planets which are far away from where you live. You live on the earth. The calculation for the earth is done by Vastu Shastra. So what is it that the other planets contribute to you? They contribute color. Radiation comes from that planet. The color and the energy and the other unseen radiations. And that is how they control the basic nature of each planet is defined. For example, Shani. Shani will give you a black or a blue or a grey color. I am Shani Pradhan, which is why I am darker in color. Somebody who has got Jupiter in its Lagna will be fairer and maybe slightly heavier and more pious. These are the features that come to a person with Jupiter in his Lagna. Anyway, so these variety that we see amongst the mankind, amongst the creatures, even in lions you will find different natures. Even in the other animals, even very, very vicious animals, you will find there are some who are not so vicious. This variety comes from a different composition. For example, if your principal planet is Mars, then you are going to be very, very aggressive. If it is Jupiter, you are going to be very, very mild, affable, and pious. So such things, these are combinations. Why? Because Mars is a fire planet, Moon is a water planet, stuff like that. So, please imagine, please think, in this small, little, insignificant planet which we live on, the Earth, there are billions of creatures. God doesn't have the time, the inclination, or the management system to manage each and everybody's individual fate. So what does He do? He installs a semi-automatic, or should I say even automatic system. In the computer language, it is called the SCADA system. SCADA is Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System. What does that do? Depending on what you have done in the past, it writes a software for your present and future. I asked my Gurudev, what am I going to be in the next life? And he said, whatever you are doing now is preparing the blueprint for your next life. So this software is so designed that it takes inputs from the last life to give you a new life. And this continues the perpetuity of creation and existence. Anyway, I'm going into wrong things, or maybe I am going too long into the same things. Let me come back to what Gita is saying. At the base of any prani, as we call it, or living being, to exist. Let us see. A person is walking, talking, doing everything absolutely perfectly happy. He's dancing, maybe he's having a good time with his friends, maybe, and suddenly something happens and his pran leaves. This force leaves. And his body, which was doing so many things now, becomes dysfunctional. What is it that has happened to him? That Shiv that he was is now a shava, a dead body, matti, which people will go and burn him on the ghats. What is the difference? What has happened? What I am coming to is the core, and that is to understand who you are and the two major forces that make you. One is nature and the other is this force that we are talking about. That is Prakriti and Purush. Why Purush? Because Pur and Shayan, he sleeps within you. He just has to be there. And that is enough. His presence keeps you going. Purush, Pur is the word that is used for our cities. Udaipur, Jodhpur, Jaipur, and so on. And Purush is the Lord sleeping in there. So Purush and Prakriti, Prakrish Rupe Kriti, that means work in visible form. Okay, so God says, I have created the entire universe with these 8. What is the 8? 5 I have described to you: earth, water, fire, air, and space. What are the other 3? Chit, Buddhi, Ahankar. They are abstract. So with these 8, I have created the entire world. Yesterday I was looking at AI asked a question which I had a problem. I had asked this AI to tell me about permutation and combination. So I will work it out. These 8 elements, in what proportion they will form what kind of a person. Now, another beautiful thing about this creation is that everybody is controlled by 10 planets. We have all heard our solar system has 9, right? There's a 10th. In a horoscope, the calculation of the earth is missing. They calculate all of the planets which are far away from where you live. You live on the earth. The calculation for the earth is done by Vastu Shastra. So what is it that the other planets contribute to you? They contribute color. Radiation comes from that planet. The color and the energy and the other unseen radiations. And that is how they control the basic nature of each planet is defined. For example, Shani. Shani will give you a black or a blue or a grey color. I am Shani Pradhan, which is why I am darker in color. Somebody who has got Jupiter in its lagna will be fairer and maybe slightly heavier and more pious. These are the features that come to a person with Jupiter in his lagna. Anyway, so these variety that we see amongst the mankind, amongst the creatures, even in lions you will find different natures. Even in the other animals, even very, very vicious animals, you will find there are some who are not so vicious. This variety comes from different composition. For example, if your principal planet is Mars, then you are going to be very, very aggressive. If it is Jupiter, you are going to be very, very mild, affable, and pious. So, such things, these are combinations. Why? Because Mars is a fire planet, Moon is a water planet, stuff like that. So, please imagine, please think, in this small, little, insignificant planet which we live on, the Earth, there are billions of creatures. God doesn't have the time, the inclination, or the management system to manage each and everybody's individual fate. So what does He do? He installs a semi-automatic, or should I say even automatic system. In the computer language, it is called the SCADA system. SCADA is Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System. What does that do? Depending on what you have done in the past, it writes a software for your present and future. I asked my Gurudev, what am I going to be in the next life? And he said, whatever you are doing now is preparing the blueprint for your next life. So this software is so designed that it takes inputs from the last life to give you a new life. And this continues the perpetuity of creation and existence. Anyway, I am going into wrong things, or maybe I am going too long into the same things. Let me come back to what Gita is saying. At the base of any prani, as we call it, or living being, to exist. Let us see, a person is walking, talking, doing everything absolutely perfectly happy. He is dancing, maybe he is having a good time with his friends, maybe, and suddenly something happens and his pran leaves, this force leaves. And his body, which was doing so many things now, becomes dysfunctional. What is it that has happened to him? That Shiv that he was is now a Shava, a dead body, matti, which people will go and burn him on the ghats. What is the difference? What has happened? What I am coming to is the core, and that is to understand who you are and the two major forces that make you. One is nature and the other is this force that we are talking about. That is Prakriti and Purush. Why Purush? Because Pur and Shayan, he sleeps within you. He just has to be there. And that is enough. His presence keeps you going. Purush, Pur is the word that is used for our cities. Udaipur, Jodhpur, Jaipur, and so on. And Purush is the Lord sleeping in there. So Purush and Prakriti. Prakrish Rupe Kriti. That means work in visible form. Okay. So the whole Gita is to clear the illusions that Arjun and people like Arjun, you, me, everybody else, is harboring about a man, about the Lord, about these forces. The whole point of this Upadesh, as we call it, the sermon, okay, it has got on now. Let us see. So we were talking about the nature and the force which controls nature. Now these are two very distinct entities which are parallel and interdependent, but They have their individual areas of work, so to say. And it is very important to be able to distinguish from the one from the other. And that is why chapter 13, which is a very, very profound and beautiful chapter, describes this in great detail. Which is why it is called Prakriti Purush Vivek Yoga. Vivek means where you understand it with your brains. So now Lord Krishna has been trying to explain to Arjun that you are busy in nature, in the beings, for the sake of their being beings. But they are not just beings. The inside of those beings is a force which is me. I exist within those beings, and no matter what you do, you cannot kill them unless I wish you to, unless their time has come. Ultimately, in chapter 18, shlok number 33, he says as much. He says, Tasmat uttishta yasho lavasva maye vetena hatvena nimitmatra bhavasabda sachi, which means, get up, gain some fame. I've already decided their fate. They are all going to die in the next 18 days. You are simply my weapon. And they are going to die regardless of your getting involved in the war or not. So might as well get something out of it. This is chapter 18:33 at the end of Gita. Now in chapter 13 he is explaining the fact that nature and me, the force, are two different things existing within the same container, which is your body. And it is very important for you to make any progress towards me is to distinctly understand the functions of nature and my functions. That is why it is Prakriti, Purush, Vivek, brain adhyay. Let us see. मयि चान्यन्य योगेन भक्तिरभ्यभिचारिणी विविक्त देशे विमत्सर तिर्जन संसिद्धि. Until you have complete devotion to me without any attachment to the world which has been created around you, which is illusory to start with, then until then you will not be able to come and meet me. For this, you have to live in Vivikta Desh, which means place away from the crowd. What is that place? That place is your own heart. You go to the mountains, you go to the Everest, you go to Parasnath Pahadi in Dhanbad, or you go to some other hillock, you will start worrying about who is going to give me food, who is going to protect me from the snakes and the other instruments, other insects, and where am I going to get my next meal from, where is the ration, oh I'm feeling cold, oh it's too rainy, and so many things. So you needn't go out anywhere, you just need to remove everything else from your consideration. This is what he's saying. And how can you do that? He says, Lahiri Mahasaya says, you can do that by being in Paravastha. Paravastha is the state of Samadhi. When you are in Paravastha, then your body is totally detached from you, which is the Atma, which is the soul. So when such a kind of detachment does not take place, until such kind of a detachment actually takes place, you will not be able to understand me. And if you remember, I have been speaking about the last sermon of Bhupennath Sanyal Mahasaya, my Paratpar Guru, and he has said the same thing. In Bengali, he had said, পরের সঙ্গে না থাকিয়া নিজের সঙ্গে থাকুন, পরের কথা না বলিয়া আমার নিজের কথা বলুন, which means por is the body, por is foreign to you. So instead of talking about staying with your body, stay with Nij. Nij is only your soul, because this body is going to change. Every birth this body is going to change. It's like old clothes. What is your attraction to them? You just throw them. But what is you? You is you without bereft of your body. That is your soul. So he's repeating that अव्यभिचारिणी भक्ति होनी चाहिए, where there is no other consideration except for the Lord Himself. अनन्य योग किसे कहते हैं? एकांत चित्त से भगवान में आत्मसमर्पण। अनन्य, अन्य means other, un means no. There is no other person, place, thing or being who is yours. Only the Lord is yours. Ananya Yoga. Okay, there is a shlok which my Gurudev used to often recite for me, specifically for me. Why for me alone, I don't know. I can guess, but there's no point in guessing. That shlok is Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityaviyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Ananyas chintayanto, without even an external thought of anything other than me, even that is prohibited, and without any external or other thoughts, you should devote to me completely. Ananyas chintayanto mam, me. Ye jana paryupasate, those who worship me in this manner, without thinking of anything, anybody other than me. Tesham nityaviyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Such people who are completely with me all the time without any external input, for such people, yogakshemam vahamyaham, I get them their yog and I get them their shem. What is yog? Yog is to get what you don't have, and shame is to protect what you have. This is the world view of it. The real view, the spiritual view is yoga is to be with Him. So if you continuously look for me, pursue me, praise me, worship me, then I will bring you and we will be together. That is yoga. So that is yoga kshemam vahamyam. But in the process, if you lose your body or you get hurt in any manner which disables you to the extent that you are not able to worship me in the manner that has been designed and told to you by your Guru, then it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it, because shame, which means whatever you have got till that point of time, I will protect that and I will give it to you in your next birth. So this is what yoga and shame means. अनन्य योग के साथ जो भजन भक्ति हुआ विचारनी क्रिया की प्रावस्था ही प्रकृति ज्ञान है. When you have eliminated all considerations, all inputs, all tendencies from your body, and you are bereft of any feeling, acknowledgement of any feeling, reaction to any feeling from the outside world, that is when you get the real Gyan. Because the real Gyan is not artificial, it is not based on your body and your false world, it is based on the reality which is me only. So you will get to know me only once you are able to shut out the outside world and your body. The first thing is to shut out your own body out of your concentration, and automatically that will shut out the world for you. इस प्रकार से क्रिया करते रहने पर फिर अन्य वस्तु की प्रसक्ति आसक्ति और दृष्टि नहीं होती. If you do kriya, you do your kriya yoga in this manner, in this kind of thinking, please understand that anything that you do can be done in three manners: manasa, vacha, karmana. You can do it with your heart, by your heart, Manasa, vacha. Vacha is your speech. You can say, oh, shut up. You can do ishara, give him a signal. Or you can, inside your mind, or inside your heart, you can just simply feel, oh my God, he talks too much. Why doesn't he shut up? This is all inside you. So, manasa, vacha, karmana. These are the three ways. When you are trying to reach God, that is when you need to do it in all three manners. Manasa, vacha, karmana. In speech, in physical action, and with your heart. साधक की अव्यभिचारिणी व्यक्ति यहाँ ज्ञान के अंतम लक्षण क्रिया की परावस्था में अन्य कोई बोध न रहने कारण से अवस्था में you will be able to achieve kriya ki paravastha or samadhi. In samadhi, the impact is that your connection to your external sensory organs, work organs is gone. Thereby, they do not emit any negative signal to your heart and mind. So then your mind and heart are disconnected. It is just like the network that failed a little while ago. And I was not able to get the Facebook and the other ways in which I was able to brand. So once you disconnect that, then what happens is you are able to concentrate on the reality. And he says the reality is me. That comes only with paravastha. Paravastha is the original avastha or status that a man, a human being, or any being has. He has come out of him from the force. May the force be with you is a subsequent development. The you are the force is what you start with. You are part of him. It's like a huge fire, a roaring fire, and the sparks come out. And they glow for some time and then they fall to earth as bits and pieces of ash. You are like that. Now, as long as the wood is there, it lasts, it ignites and burns and is gone. And then the fire is also gone. भजन करते करते ये बोध तो होता है, परंतु ये सब तब होता है जब सर्वव्यापी आत्मा जो सर्वत्र सबके भीतर प्रविष्ट होकर रहता है, साधु उसको साक्षात करता है। इस प्रकार आत्मदर्शन सबको क्यों नहीं होता? Why can't it happen to everybody else? Because we have the tendency to use our sensory and work organs to interact with the world and be drawn outside our own concentration into the world and thereby forgetting where we started from. And the fact that you go out of your body into the world and interact with substances into the world, you fall in love with some, you like some, you dislike some others, and you have a whole history that is slowly being written, which keeps you captivated and aloof from your original form. This is called Sansar world. This, please remember, has been created by Apara Shakti, the Shakti that creates the ordinary earthly creations, including all creatures, trees, plants, rivers, mountains, everything. It's all created by him, even planets. Now, how do you get out of that? So, supposing there is a lovely tree outside in your courtyard, and on that lovely tree lives a squirrel, and comes a cuckoo which sings every night for you, and you just love it, especially in the early winter days or in the spring, you love it. Now you would naturally be inclined to go out and sit under the tree, listen to the cuckoo singing and watching the antics of that little squirrel. But is that the reality? Is that what you are meant to do? No, you are not. Or let us say you have a small grandson, just like my granddaughter just called, and it's a natural thing for any human being to be attracted to a small child. You know, they speak so innocently, so beautifully. They have their own ways of describing things which you had never thought of in your time. And it's a wonderful thing. But is it? You are drifting off your own destination. You are going into areas which are not of no gain to you. Not to say you should hate your grandchild or you should hate your the squirrel or the cuckoo or the tree. No, you don't have to hate anything. You simply have to be able to shut it all out for some time until you are able to be in a very comfortable place with your soul. What happens is when you have this little squirrel and this beautiful cuckoo who sings so wonderfully well, you have a tendency to collect it, to always keep it with you or near you. Which is not meant to be. Can you believe it? A squirrel walked into my double-glassed window in my bathroom and created a nest there. And she gave birth to 4 small baby squirrels. And it has been a fascinating view for me. I can only see them silhouette. I can't see them in reality because it's a frosted glass, both sides. But I can see their antics. They come out, they move out. If there's a sound in the near the glass, then they rush into their nest, and then they slowly peek out. And when they see there's no danger, they come out again. They climb the grills up. It's wonderful. But how does that help me? You don't have that much time. Which is why my Guru Maharaj said, the moment you have received a human body, it becomes your primary duty to first research on your maker. Once you have done that, research your or try to find your maker is Kriya. So once you have done your Kriya, then you can indulge in your squirrel and cuckoo and tree and all fancy stuff, grandson, granddaughter, etc., for some time. But your attachment must not be overpowering. That is what he is saying. बंधु वह वस्तु आकाश कुसुम के समान असत्य है. Like a flower in the sky, all these things are unreal. Where were you and where was your granddaughter or grandson, say 10 years back, before she was born? Where was the squirrel before you moved into Calcutta? They have come and they will go. Why are you getting attached to them? Yeah?
The story of Jarabharat and the pond.
Absolutely, absolutely. परंतु वो वास्तु आकाश कुसुम के समान असत्य है. इट इज अनरियल. यह विचार करके देखने की सामर्थ्य उस समय उसमें नहीं रहती. माई हार्ट से ओ माई गॉड, सो ब्यूटिफुल. ओके, वी विल नॉट डू पूजा टुडे. लेट मी स्टे विद दिस. दिस इज डिवाइन. दैट्स नॉट डिवाइन. That is Maya. That is the agyan that you have that attracts you to think that those things are real. जीव की गति मुक्ति तो चिर स्थिर चिदानंद आत्मा ही है. Your ultimate destination is your soul, is the Almighty, the force that we keep talking about. इस मिथ्या कल्पना के चंगुल से मुक्ति पाए बिना जीव को शांति की प्राप्ति की संभावना नहीं. Let us say, unfortunately or fortunately, an eagle comes and picks up one of the squirrel pups and walks away. What happens? Your heart will skip a beat. What happened? You can't do anything about it. Let us say the small accident takes place and your grandson or granddaughter is in a little bit of trouble. Maybe they are hurt and they're bleeding or something. You will be immediately attracted to that and you will say, oh my God. But no, you are using God in a profane way. God is, each one is hurt or unhurt or continue or discontinue only due to his prarabdha, karma phal. God has got nothing to do with it. He says, I am only the witness. Whatever happens, happens without me. This is a long debate, we have had it earlier. Then who does it? And this is what we have to understand in chapter 13. I'll give you an example. If everything is dependent on God, which is, but there are certain things which are not being interfered by God, that is nature, His Shakti. For example, let us compare him and you. Okay? Your hair starts graying. Do you want it to? No, you don't. But it's the nature of your body that the hair will start graying or falling off, or you'll start getting bald, or you'll start getting weak. Your digestive system will start getting weak, and stuff like that. God has got nothing to do with it. So that is nature. So this distinction needs to be very clear in one's mind if he is to reach his soul, to reach the force. जीव की गति मुक्ति तो चिर स्थिर आनंद है। अतः वस्तु की प्राप्ति या अप्राप्ति से उसे सुख में या शांति निद्रा में कोई विघ्न घटित होने की संभावना नहीं है। If you get something, you get elated. You don't get something, you get depressed. But why should you? We don't think about it. Oh, I so wanted to go to Africa to see the migration of the wildebeest and the zebras and all that. But I have not got a chance for so many years. So, the wildebeest will migrate again next year. Are you worried about what kriya you did or did not do? No. For so many years I have not done kriya. So what happens if I don't do it for one more day? What happens is you get into a bad habit of giving more importance to not important items in your life. The most important thing that you can do is to do kriya on a regular basis and slowly increase the quantum and the quality of your kriya. The availability of a certain desired material or non-availability should not in any way impact your thinking. Your doubts will slowly melt away or get blown away like the cloud which is covering the sun. तब किसी आसक्ति नहीं हो, तब किसी और आसक्ति हो। Then slowly you will be able to detach yourself from the rest of the desirable world. This is the first stage of achievement in Kriya Yoga. It is called Pratyahar. The second stage is you will be so deeply involved in your dhyan and then dharana and dhyan and then samadhi that you will not be able to even feel their presence, acknowledge their presence, etc. because you will be so deeply immersed in yourself, in your own soul. यही अवस्था ही क्रिया की परावस्था है. This is the ultimate state of samadhi. अन्य दिशा में दृष्टि न देकर मन लगा क्रिया करने से अपूर्व अवस्था प्राप्त होती है. If you are able to prevent your attention going outside into the world and confine it to within yourself, then slowly but surely you will be able to achieve the status of samadhi. आत्मा के सिवा अन्य विषय में आसक्ति होने से चित्त की पवित्रता नष्ट होती है, तब चित्त व्यभिचार दोषग्रस्त होता है. For example, if you are seeing a certain serial You saw maybe episode 1 and 2 last night. And then now you're sitting for sadhana in the morning. If the thoughts of that serial come back to you when you're doing sadhana on your asana, then it is a major distraction. So you should have the ability to ignore those thoughts, get over them. And it comes with practice only. There is no switch for that. You cannot switch it off or on. It's only the practice that will get you there. Such practice, or abhyas as we call it in Hindi, will over a period of time and practice will take you to a place where it is called Vairagya. Rag is a word which introduces attraction, attachment. Vairagya means no attraction, no attachment. That is where you should be. And you know what is going to happen? Sanal Masha has written, he says, Apna naam mor nahi pade mone. Even you will forget your own name. Because even your name is an external imposition on you. You are not born with a name. Your parents, had a number of consultations, they talked to a number of people, they asked for suggestions as to your name, and they arrived at a certain decision. Okay, this is my son's or daughter's name going to be. For example, we have 5 brothers. 4 of us are named with Indra. Devendra, Mahendra, Yogendra, Jitendra. Does that make me Jitendra? Does he make any of them any Indra? No. It is something which is attached to you artificially to give you a sansaric identity, a world identity. That name then goes into your school, it goes into your college, it goes into your passport, it goes into your citizenship documents. Is it you? No, it isn't. But you are happy. Okay, that's my name. In your Aadhaar card, in your voting card. But who are you really? Think about it. Sanal Masha says, even your name you have to forget. Even this artificial upadhi, as we call it, title, you have to forget if you really want to achieve God. इस अवस्था में आत्मा के साथ अनन्य योग होने से भगवान में निष्कपट प्रेम संस्थापित होता है. And the prem, the attraction or the attachment that you will feel for the Lord will not be artificial. Some people play act even this attachment. They will sit with their eyes closed and, gently moving the mala or doing funny things. Sanal Masha has said something very beautiful about it. He has said, Bhakti bhesh bada antara. Actual devotion and the pretension of such actual devotion, there is a huge difference. What is the difference? Jo dharani akash. It's the same difference as the earth and the sky. Bhakt leena guru charana mein. Bhakt will always be thinking of the lotus feet of his guru. Bhesh jagat ki ash. The bhesh dhari or the pretender Bhakt will be thinking, oh, who is going to come and get impressed by me and give me some donations or give me a gift or show respect to me, etc., etc. This is what nature will do to you because you are attracted to nature. You want money, you want power, you want fame, you want name. And if you are attached to the power that is the real power, then you will not want any of these. Because you have got the mukut money, you have got the real hira, the diamond in your hand. निर्जन स्थान और विविक्त देश में वास करने से चित्त प्रसाद प्राप्त होता है. Once in a while, one should go to a relatively less crowded place. You know.
Seclusion.
Yeah. I normally go to Mandar. And I stay there all alone for 5, 7, 10 days. And it is like a recharging of my entire system. When I go there, I am a little worried about the food, about the accommodation, about the load shedding, because there is a lot of load shedding in Bihar and Jharkhand. But once I'm there, I don't want to come. It's so beautiful. So he says, to get away from your natural attachment or attraction to the worldly things, you do need to stay sometimes in a less crowded place where some of these facilities are not readily available to you. It can be a mandir, it can be a tirth, it can be a little cottage in the forest, it can be any place that you find suitable without any discomfort to your body. It must not have lurking violent animals, carnivores or snakes or scorpions. It must be, you should be able to spend your time worry free. That's the key word. Because in such a place, you can have a continuous sadhan for a very long period of time without being disturbed, because there is no noise. There are not very many people allowed, and those around, and those who are there know that I should not disturb this man or woman. परंतु प्रकृत निर्जन स्थान पृथ्वी पर खोजकर पाना कठिन है. कोई हो तो भी मन रहेगा. Even if you are completely alone, your man will be there. So what do you do about your man? You can leave everything else, but what about your man? मन अकेले ही 100 के बराबर है. Man is equivalent to 100 people. It makes so much noise and it's so much confusion it creates. अतः मन के निर्जन होने का कोई आशा नहीं है. There is no hope for your man to vanish. So then what happens? विषय के प्रति मन की आसक्ति सारे कोलाहल का कारण है. Your attachment. Let us say I have gone to Mandar. I'm just giving you by an example. If I have gone to Mandar, what happens? I worry about my son. I worry about my wife. I worry about my business. I worry about some of the jobs that I had assigned to my employees. So what do? In this world and age, there is this mobile. So I fish it out and I ring up. Who has forced me, or who has, gently nudged me into getting back in touch with the world? My man. So you have to use extreme discipline not to do these things. One of the principal things that you can do a favor to yourself with is to switch off your mobile phone and not switching it on unless it's absolutely necessary. This mobile is a big convenience, but it is a big distractor. I just saw a clip on WhatsApp where a patient, a chap got an accident. So the police wala came to try to help him, and then he had a call. While he was helping him, he had a call. So he asked his assistant to help him, and he attended the call. And then the assistant got a call. So he dropped him. And this fellow, then some other people came and put him in some auto or something, and he went to the hospital. The doctor came and he was examining him, that he got a call. So he told the nurse, you look after him, and she got a call. And by the time all these people were through, the patient himself got a call. His wife said, "Arey, where are you? Why are you so late? I'm waiting for you." And before he could explain what had happened to him, he was gone. So The mobile is such a big distraction. It is meant for your convenience, but it is a big invader of your privacy, of your peace of mind, everything. He who has achieved the ability to shut all the external impulses out, only he can achieve paravastha or samadhi. The others cannot. क्रिया की परावस्था में उसका मन शमशान के समान शून्य हो जाता है. It's like the burning ghat. His man. And you don't feel about the world. You don't want samosa or dosa or pizza. You can't think of all those things. विक्षिप्त मन को लेकर निर्जन हिमाद्री के श्रृंग पर वास करने से भी विषय संस्कार नहीं दूर होते. When your mind is busy thinking about the world, even if you go to the top of the Everest, you will still think of certain things. ये बात उपद्रव सहज ही दूर किए जा सकते, परंतु सबसे अधिक उपद्रव करते हैं हमारे इंद्रिय और मन. The most disturbance, Baba says, is created by your man and its helpers, the sensory organs and the work organs. And you can't abandon them. And why? Because you can't abandon them, you cannot be completely free of them, and you cannot be free, completely, what should I say, completely detached from them. And therefore, you will be completely, all the time, interacting with the world in one way or the other. इनके रहते चित्त की प्रसन्नता एक प्रकार से असंभव है. So, it is an impossibility to have a completely cheerful and carefree heart or man. Which is why you must choose the place of your daily sadhan very carefully. Even great people like my Gurudev, they were able to shut out the world at the blink of an eye. But he used to say that where I live, on the footpath there are some rickshawalas and some autowalas who stay, and they cook all kinds of funny things with onion and garlic and stuff like that, and I get those smells, and they talk so loudly, sometimes they sing so loudly, and it disturbs me. But I have to live over that. I said, how can you do that? He said, দেখো বাবা, যুদ্ধ হবে সেখানেও বসে সাধন করতে হবে. You will have to do your sadhan even while a war is going on all around you. So the practice is the only way that you can get around all these little obstacles. It's just not that you need to reach a secluded spot. He says you need to stop and tie up your sensory organs and your man. How? Pranayama. He says the only way you can quieten them, suppress them, is through pranayama. Okay, what is pranayama and what is man? Let us understand this because it is important. Man is an abstract creation of the external breathing. It is, the breathing or the pranavayu is a flow from the soul. Only where the soul is, you will have a pran, and therefore you will have a pranavayu. The moment your pranavayu is, moving through back and forth into your nostrils and into your system, this abstract item called man is generated. It is not born with the child. It starts getting created and emboldened and enlarged with the actual birth, which means coming out of the womb and starting the external breathing. The doctors do that. They clamp the placenta, whereby he has been breathing through his mother's lungs. And once you clamp the placenta, then you need to have independent breathing. So the doctors turn you upside down and slap you a little bit, and you start, and your external breathing starts, and that is when the man is born also. So then you have feelings of like, dislike, comfort, discomfort, hungry, not hungry, etc. This is all the doing of your man. So the man is born the moment you are disconnected from your mother. This can be controlled by pranayam, a stage of pranayam where external breathing stops and internal breathing through the sushumna starts. That's when your man will vanish. It will merge back with the soul from where it has come. अज्ञान के क्षीण होने पर मन की चंचलता नहीं रह सकती. मन के अचंचल होने पर देहेंद्रियकृत कर्म में जीवात्मा का विभाग नहीं होता. The moment the man is reduced or is depleted, the natural attraction for you in the outside world is also depleted, which is what I said was called pratyahar, the first stage of first preliminary reward of doing sadhana. Ultimately, the sadhak becomes so intoxicated with the presence of the force or the formless one that he completely forgets the outside world. He gets so much self-generated anando in Bengali, in English, happiness. So you have to start all efforts which should give you Atmagyan. Atmagyan is two, there are two connotations of Atmagyan. Atmagyan means to know about your soul. Unless you know about your soul, you will not be able to love it, move close to it. So you have to know your Atma and the Gyan to be able to do that. And Atmagyan is also normally called, Atmagyan means my own knowledge. My is not there in Kriya. There is no my. It's all his. Kutas darshan bhi adhatma gyan hai. The ability to see in the third eye. Please mind you, the third eye is not in the sthul sharir. The corporal body does not have the third eye. The third eye is in your sukshma sharir. But even that is not the ultimate darshan. Charam Gyan Kriya ki Paraवस्था में द्वित होता है. When you reach the final stages of Samadhi, that is when you get Para Buddhi, which in Chandi is called Medha Rishi, where the Man and the Buddhi both go to him for consultation. If you remember Chandi, the first chapter says, Raja Surat. Raja is Man and Samadhi Vaishya. Samadhi Vaishya. Vaishya means trader. Buddhi. Both of these go to Medha Rishi, the completely Paravastha, the complete unshackled Buddhi, Medha. Yad drishtam vishwarupam me maya matram tadeva hi tena bhranto asikanteya swaswarupam vichintaya. दृश्य दर्शन का लोप हो जाता है, that you are able to completely not see the world. See, there is a famous statement from Surdas, the saint, the blind saint. He says, जग से आंखें बंद करी तो सूरदास ने दर्श किए, which means when I close my eyes to the world, it is then that I saw the Lord. But why does he forget that he is blind from the birth? So what eyes is he talking about? It is his other sensory organs. There are 4 other sensory organs. Once he has locked them, they are not looking out into the world, then they look into the Atma, the soul, the force. Similarly, Kabir Das ji has said in one of his shloks, उलट समाना आप में तो हो गया ब्रह्म समान. उलट समाना, you change the direction of your looks into inside. Tongue inside, smelling inside, breathing inside, hearing inside, then you become Brahma, you become God, you become one with Him. उस समय जन समागम की अनिच्छा होती है. You don't want to meet in a crowd, you don't want to go to a crowd. और किसी आदमी या वस्तु के प्रति आसक्ति नहीं होती है. You have no attraction to any person or thing. बाहर के दुसंग का त्याग भी उतना कठिन नहीं है, परंतु पुत्र कलत्र वित्त गृहादि आदि के प्रति जो अत्यधिक आसक्ति रहती है उसका बंधन सर्वापेक्षा दुष्करी है. Our friend Kabir Das ji it is Surdas. Surdas has sung this beautiful song which was in the modern day sung by our friend Jagjit. तुम मेरी राखो लाज हरी. He says, दारा सुत धन मोह लिए हैं, सुध बुध सब विशरी. Dara is wife, Sut is son, Dhan we know. All these 3 have combined together and completely eroded my brain. I have lost all consciousness of what is right, what is not right, etc. You help me, Lord. So this is the most difficult final binding that keeps you into the world. You can forget everything. You can forget going to friends' place. You can forget going to cinemas or restaurants and all these things. But you can't abandon your wife or your son or your wealth. अतः बाहरी भीतरी सब प्रकार के संगों का त्याग करना होगा. You have to abandon this, no matter what. That does not mean you throw them out on the street. It just simply means he's there, you say hi, and you say bye. You don't say, oh, okay, oh, forget it, don't come and meet me. Nothing like that. Your natural attraction to him has to start reducing to a point where whether he is there or not there, or she is there or not there, or whether your other things which you thought were so essential is not there, doesn't matter to you. जन संग अप्रयोजनीय होने पर भी साधु संग विशेष रूप से साधन कर. However, even the Guru Pankti, all the Gurus, wherever they went to from one place to another, they would go and visit a sadhu, local famous sadhu. Sadhu means holy man. Why? Because they would like to hear him. Why would they like to hear him? Because they would like to be reminded about what is right, what is not right with their conduct. These were such humble people. So you do need to meet the sadhu or the saint or the guru. Even the second Navada Bhakti in Bhagwan Ram's sermon to Shabri Maiya is this. Pratham kar santan ke sanga. First bhakti, the first devotion, the first step towards me is to meet the saints. Second is दूसरी रति प्रभु कथा प्रसंगा. Interest in my leela, in my tales, stories. That may be Shiva avatar, it may be Krishna avatar, it may be Ram avatar, it may be anything. साधु संग के बिना सद्भाव परिपुष्ट नहीं होता. Your thoughts will be suitably, slightly altered and modified to go in the right direction, and they will be strengthened. Your resolve will be strengthened when you meet the Guru or the Sadhu or whoever is available. But you have to, in this modern day, in Kali Yuga, you have to be very careful. You might go and meet a devil hiding like a sadhu. I have been exposed to such people. So he says, sadbhav paripush nahi, sadhu sang ke bina sadbhav paripush nahi hote. Without meeting such saints and sadhus and gurus, your feelings and your character is not, well, it is incomplete, let me say. मन में साधु भाव का अभाव होने पर असत कर्म में अप्रवृत्ति नहीं आ सकती. Until you meet these people and your thoughts are suitably modified, you will not be able to move in the right direction, where you are slowly isolating yourself from the rest of the material world. So I think we should stop here. It has been a difficult journey today because of the network problems. So hopefully from tomorrow we will be more, suitably, the movement will be there. We will read Shlok 11 tomorrow. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Teina Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhanam Namo Shri Brahma Vidyam Yog Shastre Namah Shri Guru Charana Kamlebhyo Namah Shri Krishnaya Namaha. Jai Guru everybody.